Welcome back, everyone. I'm Dave Palumbo, and we are here with another exciting episode of GuruTalk. We haven't done the show in quite a while, but I thought who better to bring on for GuruTalk than one of the new gurus on the block. And he's been around for quite a while. He's a good friend of mine. He worked for Species Nutrition with me. He's probably one of the guys that when you see him on stage, he's never out of shape. He's always crazy, super sliced, as his nickname is. Man, I'm talking about Dominic Mutascio. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's interesting because, you've been working with competitors for a number of years now. And obviously, you pretty well known. Every time you get on stage, you're pretty, shredded up there, and you're one of these guys that are consistently always in shape. And that's because you know your stuff, you know your science, and you got a good educational background, and you apply that to your coaching. And, I think a lot of people were caught by surprise when Nick Walker recently announced that you were going to be his new prep coach. Why don't you tell us how you met Nick and how that whole kind of thing came together? Sure.
I mean, I've known Nick for quite some time. I mean, he's from the tri-state area. So, I knew him coming up through the years. And then, we would, we're good acquaintances. And then, we had been going back and forth pretty much after the Olympia. I pretty much just had written him a comment like, "You look great, bro. Just stay mentally focused. And, everything is going to go well if you keep that mental focus." And one thing led to another, and he had messaged me, and it wasn't something really that happened overnight. He had asked me would I be interested? And it, at first it wasn't something that I was just jumping all over. I told him, look, it's not a matter of me being, hold on 1 second. Great. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry about that. My phone got cut off. Yeah. So I told him it wasn't a matter of me being necessarily interested or not. It was a matter of, whatever was best for him. And, to make sure that we would work together. And pretty much off the start, I told him, I admired everything what he's accomplished over the years. He's had a lot of people that doubted him and said, "Oh, you're not going to go far. You'll never turn pro, never win a pro show." And, he's the definition of a a hardworking blue collar bodybuilder. Sure. He puts the work in, and, he excels against all odds. So, we spoke, and I told him, look, I have a little bit different way about going about things. And I made him pretty much a deal that, if he went for certain cardiovascular tests and blood work, if he got me back that information and everything that I needed, then we could consider about moving forward. And he got on it right away. He had everything that I needed. And then one thing led to another, and that's how it pretty much all started.
I really have to commend you because, a lot of guys would be so enamored with working with a big name like that. They wouldn't even care about that. But, obviously, you're a smart guy and you understand you don't want to step into shit. You know what I mean? Is essentially what is important. And so you said, hey, you know what, Nick, if you want to work with me, you're going to have to prove to me that you're healthy and that everything is good so that when we go move forward, 100%, that I feel confident in what I'm telling you to do. And I think that's brilliant because I tell the same thing to my clients, especially the older guys. I'm like, I want to make sure that you guys your body can handle we're not even talking about PEDs. We're talking about just the prep itself.
Yeah.
The cardio, the strain of the contest prep. Now, obviously Nick's a young guy, but you never know. Look what happened to Dallas McCarver. Who knew that he had a blockage in his coronary arteries? So you make Nick get all these health tests. They obviously all turn out well, obviously.
Yeah, no. So he went for the 3 cardiovascular tests that I want him to go for. We're just waiting for one last one to come back, which is his calcium score.
Right.
And he had blood work done actually 2 weeks after the Olympia. Mm-hmm. We got that blood work. And once he gets back from the Arnold, he's going to go for one more set. Mm-hmm. And I told him look, a lot of this, the first 3 or 4 months is me learning his body.
Sure.
And I told him, the more data that we have and the more I could assess what's going on systematically in his body, the better adjustments that you can make to his programming. So it's a new way of going about things for him, which, he's adjusting to it slowly. Yeah. The way that I do my check-ins and stuff like that, I have him checking his blood sugar, his blood pressure.
Great.
These are new things to him, but so far our communication has been great. We know what we need to do for him to be a serious contender to win an Olympia title, which right off the bat, the first thing that I did before we even started was I compared all of his stage shots with some of the winners. And, I feel like at the Olympia, he was probably like a little bit on like the flat side.
Yeah, I agree.
He was completely nailed at the Arnold. Perfect. So like the consensus of it is, he probably was only going to need to put on maybe about 7 pounds of tissue in the right areas, which would be, a little more outer sweep. He could use a little more thickness in his pecs and a little more back density. And the most important thing I was telling him is if we can bring his waistline down maybe another like half an inch to a full inch, right. I told him like that will add inches to your physique. And I think, like I said, with another 7 pounds of tissue in the right areas and him coming in completely spot on, he'll be very, very hard to beat.
Yeah, and then you said it perfectly. He really doesn't need to get that much bigger. He just needs quality improvements at this point. I mean, because he's not 6 foot tall, so he's got so much mass on him already. And you know what happens, Dom. The longer you train, that muscle maturity comes in. You start getting more grooves and etched in detail, and that makes you look bigger a lot of times too. So a guy like him, he could probably weigh the same thing with better quality to the muscle and actually look like he gained 10 pounds, in a sense.
Yeah, because he's still very young. He's in his 20s. So he's just now really, and you could see it in his muscle, he's just now starting to tap into muscle maturity.
Right.
So like over the next 3 years, I think you'll see a big improvement in the type of quality of muscle that he has and how much deeper some of his separation will get over the next few years.
If you had to compare Nick's work ethic, since you've been working with him for a few months now, to like another bodybuilder, who would you compare him to? Like a Branch Warren, a Dorian? What kind of mental mindset does he have in the gym and when he's doing his prep and all that kind of stuff?
I mean, his mindset and consistency is like unlike anything I've ever seen. I'll tell you the truth. He hasn't really missed a meal since 2018. even after the Olympia.
Yeah.
I know he went out like after, had a couple of like meals. On Monday, he was right back on a plan. And I try to tell people, like, when people are thinking there's some magic formula or drug, I tell someone, listen, if you're really trying to see what your potential is, go 6 months without missing one meal.
Absolutely.
And I tell them, if you miss one meal, the clock starts over. You got to go again.
You're right.
And I'll tell you what, you'll be more shocked by that than any drug that you could ever imagine.
100%. I went 6 years without missing a meal, and that's why I gained 120 pounds in 6 years. That's important. People don't realize it's consistency,
Yeah. And previously, like as a coach, I've had some bodybuilders that have a lot of potential to win big national shows, but some of the things that happen, like a lot of times it's either self-sabotage or mentally, they go through these roadblocks where, it could be something that's going on outside where they let them, and a lot of people don't really look at that with bodybuilding, but it's more of a mental game. And 100%. The thing that, I've always respected highly about him is, and what makes him so dangerous is his ability to consistently execute regardless of what's going on.
Sure.
And, he's proven to do that year after year after year, which is why he's so good.
I almost think that he thrives on some of the social media, like, craziness that goes on. Like when people start criticizing, I almost think he revels in that. It almost motivates him more.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I mean, he rises to the occasion whenever someone doubts him, My main thing right now, too, is just, since he's has a lot of time since the Olympia's not until December, is just making sure that he keeps that mental fire and stays mentally in a very, very good place and motivated.
Now, we know, and I don't have to mention names, I'm sure some of these big gurus out there probably were, as soon as they heard that he wasn't with Matt anymore, they probably were blowing up his text messages and email and all kinds of promising him the world. Look, we know who those guys are. I don't have to mention names, but they're out there. They go after all the top dogs. They want to add it to their stable. why do you think Nick chose you, number one? And did you feel any pressure when he contacted you? Because, now you get this guy who's expecting, look, I want to win the Olympia, and that responsibility is now on you. So give me your feedback on that.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's hundreds of people that would love to work with him. And like I said, when he reached out to me, it wasn't like a set decision right away. It was something that, we both had to think about for a while. And, as I was telling you before, like, my business is at a very good point. I do have a lot going on in my life. I'm opening an anti-aging clinic in North Carolina, and working with someone like him, I do take very, very serious. And, it did take me some time to really think it out. And I told myself too, like, if I'm going to work with him, there's sacrifices I need to make too. Like, I did play with the thought of maybe competing again, but I told him, now that we're moving forward, I'm not going to. It's going to be too hard for me to balance. And
right.
If he could win the Olympia, that would be equivalent to me winning any big national show.
Exactly.
But I told him, though, like, this was something that was very hard to decide, because, like, I do have certain expectations. Like, he's going to blow his last year's package out of the water, but he needs to be in that top 2 or top 3 at the absolute worst. And I think that he can, as long as everything goes to plan. We put on the necessary tissue that we need to. We're going to get his waistline down, that he should push to win the title. And in my opinion, if that doesn't happen, that's going to be absolutely disastrous for myself and him. And there's no way that I could let that happen.
Right.
So,
well, you know what? As long as he comes in looking better than he did the year before, even if for some reason he doesn't win, or places top 3, I think that's a win. But the pressure, I think, is that if he doesn't do well, who gets blamed? The coach always gets blamed,
of
right?
course.
So even if
Absolutely.
so, I think that you have to kind of look at it objectively, like, hey, this is the best you are, the best you've ever been. If it's good enough to win, great. If it's not anyone's fault. That's what the judges wanted or didn't want.
Yeah, which I promised him, and I'll, I'm a man of my word. If he follows everything,
yeah,
then he most certainly will, by a landslide. And it's just a matter of, like, in the beginning, learning his body and feeling each other out. It's almost like dating a new girl for the first time. Like, you're kind of feeling each other out.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you get to a certain level of comfort where you can kind of say what you want to him, and he's not going to get insulted or anything like that. And that once you get to that level of relationship with a client coach, I think that magic starts happening at that point. Because I think it's a little standoffish at first when you work with a new client, and then once you get to know each other, it's kind of become friends too, and so it becomes a little easier. But
yeah.
Have you guys played with the idea of possibly doing a warm-up show like before the Olympia, maybe like right before?
So, like, we spoke about that, like, and like the real thing that would have been great to do is if he would have done this Arnold with them, increasing the prize money.
Yeah.
But, we spoke about that in the very beginning, and look, we're not going to cry over spilled milk. It is what it is.
He could do it next year too, because the Olympia and the Arnold are almost right next to each other,
Yeah. His main thing is coming in to contend for an Olympia title. So, like, our approach and what I plan on doing with him. And the thing is, there really isn't any shows that are around this area that are that close to the Olympia. Any of the shows, they're usually over in Spain,
right,
and these other countries. So, like, our approach and my approach with him is going to be to get him in show shape about 3 or 4 weeks out from the show. And then, sort of do these kind of mock, like, loads with him to get an idea of how long his body's taking to convert carbs into muscle glycogen, and, have him in shape early so that we can pretty much pull his cardio back and coast into the show.
Right. That makes sense. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you took on this responsibility, and obviously, you guys have a relationship with each other. And do you feel like, since you've taken on this responsibility, that, I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is, do you think it's helping your business, or is it hurting your business in the sense that you don't have enough time for other people?
I mean, my business is at the point where I couldn't really take on that many more like clients as it is, but I have 3 other like top like nutritionists. One of them's another registered dietitian that works under me.
Gotcha.
So I give a lot of new clients, if they're a good fit for those other employees that work under me, I give them to them. I wouldn't say it really affected it at all.
Okay.
I mean, if anything, like, you know, the main thing is that I told him like I take this very, very serious, and that, you know, there's not, oh, you know, we're looking to do this. Like, this is what needs to happen.
What foods seem to work well with Nick? Is he like a high protein, high carb guy? Does he like more fats? Like what kind of a diet macro breakdown works really well with him?
So basic foods. I mean, I could give you a breakdown of what I have him doing now. Yeah. So like he sent me over what he was doing previously, and I told him, look, like now that, you know, your metabolism's kind of acclimated to this, we're going to start increasing your food. But what we'll do is on your leg days, I added in probably an extra like 120 grams of carbs on his leg days. I would say his calories probably are probably like 5,600 or so on his leg days. Right. And it's basic bodybuilding foods: chicken, jasmine rice, cream of rice, grass-fed sirloin. Whole eggs are okay. Sometimes they cause a little inflammation, but just basics: macadamia nut oil, almond butter.
So you got fats in there too with him. Okay, that's what I'm asking.
Oh no, he's on definitely a lot of fats, and I mean, you know firsthand, like fats are probably one of the most essential things for growth. For growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. So you got him on a very well balanced diet. Is that drastically different than what he was eating before?
No, because I told him this. Like, I didn't want to come in and totally rip apart what he was doing, because look, it was working.
Yeah.
Don't try to fix something that isn't broken.
Right.
Not saying that you can't exceed a little bit more, but we use with what you were already doing and start making small adjustments to it.
That makes sense.
Which is pretty much like,
good.
Which is pretty much like what we've been doing, is taking what he was doing and just making small tweaks to it.
Is he a big supplement guy? Does he use a lot of nutritional supplements?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, he's on a lot of different health supplements. Right. I mean, tons of them. Yeah.
Did you put him on those, or was he on them already?
I would say he was on maybe 60% of them previously, but there's a lot of new stuff that he started taking and that I wanted him to start taking.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think very highly of you, Dom, and I know that Nick is in great hands with you, and I'm glad he hooked up with you. And good luck to both of you at the Olympia. Obviously, I'm sure you'll come back on here and keep us updated as time progresses over the next couple of months. And once again, congratulations on the rejuvenation clinic you're opening up down there in North Carolina. You'll have to keep us updated when that comes out and hits the opens up.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. And you had a busy day. I'll talk to you a little later on the phone. But for now, that's going to wrap up Guru Talk for this week. I'm Dave Palumbo with Dom Mutascio. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Dave.